You're watching Global Trade This Week with Pete Mento and Doug Draper.
Hi, I'm Doug Draper, and this is Global Trade This Week. Joining me, as always, is my partner in crime, Pete Mento, coming out in the granite state of New Hampshire. Pete, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Doug. I'm just doing fantastic.
Nice.
I'm fired up today, buddy.
I know. We always say this, but the conversations we have, like pre-show, I think that we would get kicked off the air for some of the topics and comments, but for sure you're pretty fired up today, and you actually do not have a Johnny Cash Black on, so
I know. Yeah, I'm full of life and color today, bud.
I know. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. So before we jump into it, we like to remind our audience, Cap Logistics is the group that puts this together. Pete and I goof off, make fun of each other, make fun of others. But really, we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't be watching this, or you wouldn't be watching this without those guys. So caplogistics.com, we thank them immensely for making all this happen. So enough chit-chat. This is going to be a good one. We got a lot of good topics going on. So let's just jump into this bad boy.
Yeah. So as many of you know, there has been a lot of back and forth between the United States and China over a lot of, I guess, what I would call trade adjacent issues over the past couple of years. Doug, we often talk before the show starts about getting me all riled up concerning Chinese social issues. And I'd say the past 2 years in particular, it's been a big old spotlight beaming on China regarding social justice issues about things like Uyghur cotton. Certainly the big issue of cyber theft. There's been a lot about their constant sort of poking the bear with regards to Taiwan. And now we have what was quickly becoming a hornet's nest of a global attitude towards a continued and deeper analysis of the origins of coronavirus. Whether or not it originated in a lab, who cares? But it's just the fact that a lot of people care, but whether or not China is going to allow for further investigations or not, so that we can put it to bed. Now, China has suffered greatly from international sanctions. And for those of you who dated in high school, for those of you who have a rich life and do not stay up at night reading about export sanctions, briefly, when a large country like the United States says, no one can buy your stuff, whether you are a country like, say, Syria, or whether you're a company like, say, Huawei, it has a massive impact on your bottom line. We are a nation of consumers. So what China has done is they have in the past come up with things like the unreliable entities list, which is a secretive list. That they say has all these companies on it. We're not going to tell you they are, though. No, we're not. No, it's already made, though. Oh, it's made, and it's in a secret glove box somewhere. I bet it's in Mr. Ping's Mercedes that he's driven around in, and it's in that box. And if you make us angry, we'll release those names. And we all know it's going to be American banks and American freight forwarders and American couriers and, American chemical companies and American. And it's going to be basically politically expedient companies that will be negatively affected with their businesses in China. All right. Now they're saying that they're going to create more tools. That was the word used, more tools in China that would allow them to come down on companies that are working out of countries that have sanctioned China, or to go after individuals who are inside of companies. In other words, expansive powers in China, to go after countries whose political interests are contrary to the Chinese Communist Party and individuals who have been targeted by sanctions. We do it here. They're looking for more ways to do it there. It was dealt a blow today, I guess, where this is all happening in the way that the Chinese parliamentary system is set up. It didn't quite work out very well. They're going to come up with new ways to propose it. You know what, Doug, what can I say? Any other regime, what they're doing to the poor Uyghur people would be called a genocide. But hey, you know what? I don't want to get too political here. I don't want to upset too many people. I do, but I don't want to. In the end, what really bothers me is that the United States is running out of things to do to manage this. We are at a point where we are becoming toothless from a international relations standpoint. We have already said far too many times that we want to kiss and make up with Beijing when it comes to trade. We have said far too many times we're looking for common ground. And I think that China is taking this opportunity to seize upon it and look for ways to gain some kind of leverage, because clearly the United States is losing all of theirs.
Yeah. Well, all good points, and I'll get to the first point. It's round two, if you will, of the first meeting up in Anchorage back in like mid-March or something, where there was the first meeting, face-to-face meeting. It was all the fireworks back and forth. Everybody was laying down the gauntlet. So I think this is kind of maybe round two of that, which is all fine. But the one thing that you made mention of before we jumped on here, which I was like, no, wait, yeah, okay, I think you're right, is the lack of leverage that the United States has. It's like, when you said, what else are we going to do? And I'm like, more sanctions. We're kind of doing that. I don't know how many more tariffs we can impose. It's just, we're running out of what are we going to do, which is kind of scary. I don't know what the answer is. And I think what's going to happen is more of the apology tour that we spoke about, where there's going to be more kumbaya and group hugs to try to do this as a world, not as an individual nation. But the thing that rung true just 5 minutes ago, whenever we were talking, was I don't know what else is the U.S. going to do to inflict their power, if that's the right word. I don't know. That gave me pause there, my friend.
Yeah, the attitude that this is a game of chess is ridiculous. There are too many layers. This is far too complex to look at it that way. There are too many countries engaged. This is a big, broad, massive game, and we need to begin to think multilaterally. We need to begin to think multidimensionally, and I don't believe that we can consider ourselves to have an upper hand that way. When China doesn't have to worry about re-electing people, they don't have to worry about what people in their country think about a decision. They're making plans for the next 100 years, whereas our political machinery is worried about what happens in another 3 when re-elections occur. So it's very complicated to live up to those standards and to manage what's going to happen from a trade perspective when we think so short-sightedly. Chess is a game that ends very quickly. If you play Go, which is a very Asian version of chess, very complicated, difficult. It can be very easy or very, very hard. Those games can last for an incredibly long time, and there's a bazillion different ways to win it or lose it. And I think that we're being outflanked, outmaneuvered, and outplayed by someone who's planning on winning this 500 years from now and not 500 days from now. We need to be very careful and look at this as an opportunity to set up a new way of playing the game and to stop playing it the way that we've been playing it for the past 100 years. And I'm going to stop there before I start getting really angry and starting sounding like President Monroe here. So Hit me, Doug. Hit me.
Well, it's funny that we say this show's about economics, global trade, and transportation, but I think we're diving into the political nature of our discussion, which is in trouble because I'm going to do the exact same thing here, Pete.
Great.
My topic is really rules and policies, Pete, are really, really important until they're no longer convenient. And then you can change it and do whatever you want. And I was doing some reading this morning over the weekend about a couple examples that kind of really caught my attention. And so, I'm big on reading because I want to make sure I understand and have the quotes correctly. So here we go on a few of them. So there was about the air freight and vaccines. That's my first topic. And so this is a quote that the industry and the UN agencies, they rewrote shipping rules for dangerous goods that presented a barrier for vaccine delivery. So all the rules we put in place didn't really work because it wasn't really convenient because we had to distribute vaccines. Trust me, I get it. The pandemic was the worst thing we've seen, not even a lifetime in the history of the modern world. But it's just funny how these things pop up to me is that they said, well, as we're making vaccines, some of them are hazardous if we put them in large quantities, kind of like soaps and cleansers. You know, if you put them on your hand, they're fine, but in larger quantities, they're hazmat. So that was the same with some of the variations of the vaccine. But they really propose minimal risk, so don't worry about it. We won't worry about the hazmat. And then the tracking ability, the tracing, the monitoring of temperatures, that's lithium batteries. And yeah, they're small, and they really have another function while they're moving on the plane. So we'll just kind of exempt that. And then, you know, you get into the dry ice piece of it, right? And the fact that it emits CO2 whenever it doesn't really melt, it creates a gas. And, well, that's really designed for passenger aircraft because we don't want the passengers to get ill or die. And since most of the passenger planes are now cargo, yeah, we'll waive that one. So I was just looking through here, and that, you know, it was super convenient. And so let's just waive all these rules that have been in place that we've been told forever are vital and critical. But when they're no longer convenient, we'll just kind of waive them. The Colonial Pipeline was another one. If you remember, whenever things went south, the hours of service were like, we got to get these truckers moving. We can't have our gasoline and our fuel to get up to the ports. And we spoke about that a couple episodes ago. So, you know what, guys? We don't have enough drivers, and we got to move this stuff on the ground. So hours of service, no big deal. You know, all the rules and the regulations on why hours of service were important, that's not really convenient now. So we're going to waive those. And then, you know, the emergency exemptions that the FMCSA has put into place, some of those are hours of service. We don't really worry about vehicle inspections because that takes downtime. And driver eligibility, well, kind of, you know, maybe that's not so important. So my whole point in all this stuff is these are real world examples of how rules are really important until they're no longer convenient. And that's going to set a trend, if you will, to me, that's very concerning. Because once you start going down this road, and this is super important, so we'll circumvent the rules. And oh my gosh, this is really important, so we'll circumvent the rules. So I think we're going on a slippery slope here. Get rid of COVID, because I know a lot of these are COVID related and cyber attack related. But I don't know, I'm really nervous. And there was a book that I used to read my kids. So if there's listeners out there that have young kids, it's called If You Give a Pig a Pancake. And the gist of that is if you give a pig a pancake, he's going to want this and want that and want more and more and more. And I'm afraid that regulations are going to go by the wayside or not be that important whenever they're no longer convenient. So that's my concern.
If you give Pete a pancake, he's going to want like 4 more and a side of bacon, and then he's going to ruin his diet.
Nice.
Here's the deal, Doug. When you begin to create an environment where rules and regulations are constantly sidestepped, where we make exceptions for things, then people like me who get paid extremely well per hour to find ways around rules and regulations are going to use these moments to their benefit. And we're going to say, well, we've made exceptions before. This seems like a pretty good reason for an exception. Why can't we get an exception now? There was a methodology for an exception then. Can we have an exception now? You clearly used some sort of a process to make an exception then. What was that process? Can I go through that process as well? Was it congressional? Was it legislative? Did it come from the president? I don't know. I mean, this massive retailer I work with, I'm pretty sure we can get a meeting with the president. I think they might have given a couple $100,000 to that election campaign. What do I need to do? When you make something sacred, like making sure that drivers get enough rest so that we have safe roadways, okay, that's something I think we all agree is incredibly important. But their mental health, also so that they're not slave-driven by the people that are making expectations of them. I think we forget that there's just as much a labor reason for those as there is a safety reason. We begin to say, well, we can bend this and bend that. I'm a compliance guy. It's my life. But I'm also paid pretty well to find ways around it. Don't give a pig a pancake, because I will make a pancake breakfast out of it for 500 of our friends.
Yes.
So I agree with you, Doug, that this, I know it's COVID, but I don't wear masks at the grocery store anymore. And when I got off the plane in Florida 2 weeks ago, nobody had them on in the Florida airports. It's about time that we began to get back to normal with some of this stuff, and don't give people an excuse to start bending rules, or else we're going to find ourselves in a scary place.
Yeah, no, I agree. So halftime, my friend, anything? So I'll start off because I got a couple of things that popped up. Is that it's related to one of my hot buttons last week, which was the drones and the fact that we need to stop talking about them, and you're never going to have a burger or a burrito delivered to your front door via drone.
Come on. Don't tell me someone did.
No, come on. Well, here's the reason. Here's another reason I did not bring up, but there was an article just popped up on my feed today that illegal drone use in Southern California caused thousands of bird eggs to be abandoned and subsequently have died. So when you want to mix in not human rights but animal rights, the fact that there's drones and the birds thought they were predators, so they're like, we're out of here, man. This is crazy. And so there was a dramatic picture of a beach, thousands of eggs that just got abandoned because the birds thought the drones were predators. So they got the hell out of there. So there's another reason why we need to be careful with drones and really just scrap the whole drone comment. Anyway, I saw that and it was relevant to last week, so I wanted to bring it up.
I am buying you a drone for Christmas, Doug. I'm buying you a drone so you can start taking aerial shots of your kids when they're out playing and doing stuff. And maybe you can get one of those ones that follows you when you ski. Have you seen those?
Yeah.
You get your GoPro camera and it follows you. I bet Keenan has like 4 of them. When he's snowboarding, it's like multi-camera shots of him doing tricks and stuff like Shaun White. That's how old I am. That's the only snowboarding dude I know is like Shaun White. And he probably hasn't been cool for like 20 years.
Yeah. Well, so if you send me one, Pete, I'm going to turn it on. I'm going to shoot it up as high as it possibly can go. I'm going to turn it face down, and it's going to go a zero dive and explode on the ground. And then I'm going to send you a message and say your drone sucks.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool, though. I would love that. So no problem with me, man. Yeah.
Crazy.
On my end, I don't have a whole lot to report. New season of Trade Geek Podcast will be coming out this week. I'm going to do a solo for the first one. It's sort of like Festivus. I got a lot of problems with you people. So my first episode is basically going to be me losing it. I've decided that I'm upset about a lot of things in the trade community, and what's the word I'm looking for? Results be damned. I don't know what I'm looking for here. Mm-hmm. Consequences be damned. I'm going to let it all out there, and I'm going to say what I'm upset about, and I'm just going to let it go. So
when is that happening?
I'm going to record it today.
Oh, okay.
So as you can imagine, there's going to be some cyber angry coming out today.
Yeah. Good.
We'll see how all that goes.
Shirt, so.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes, buddy.
All right.
Yeah, so that's halftime from our good friends at Cap Logistics for Global Trade this week. I guess that brings us to my second topic.
Yeah, bring it.
Yeah. So the global commerce commode that is the supply chain is backed up all the way to the source, baby. We have raw sewage just spilling out all over the floor these days. And when I had my farm out in Mason, we had a septic tank. It was very important we didn't put certain things in the toilet, because you don't want to have to get that dug up and dealt with. So I watched that thing like a hawk. We're at the point now where the septic tank is failing with regards to the current supply chain. We are currently dealing with a China that has ports that are backed up, Yantian, Shanghai, and now even beyond that, beyond the physical logistic infrastructure, we're being told by our friends and colleagues in China that they're having a hard time getting a hold of raw materials. That the microchip problem is probably going to go deep into 2022. They're saying that the chip shortages are probably looking at June of 2022, which is a complete change. A month ago, when I was reporting on this stuff, they were saying probably November of this year it was going to get caught up. Now they're saying June of 2022 before we can see that taken care of. Today there was a article in the Journal of Commerce. Hey guys, I know some of them watch the show. that this is the first quarter that anyone can remember where non-vessel operating common carriers were actually selling more space on ships than the vessel carriers were, than the actual ship owners were. So that's how hard it is to find space. So between the buy side of consumption all the way through to raw material, we are having a devil of a time dealing with the supply chain. It's gotten so bad now that it's backed up to the source of raw material. Not good, Doug. That whip effect, that backlash that I talked about, appears to have really maybe gone to its apex. I think that's good. You don't get better till the fever breaks. And hopefully when we get through peak season, which we're starting to get to, right? When we start getting through the end of peak season and we get through the middle of the summer, maybe at that point the fever will break. But the way things have been, buddy, I'm not willing to bet that it's going to be that way. I think that we should keep the plunger very close to the bowl. I think we may have some backed up toilets for a little while now, and I'm not so sure that things are going to be better by the fall. I don't know. What do you think, bud?
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And when you made this startup, I just have to throw this out there. My wife lived up in Winter Park, Colorado for 5 years. She was a teacher up there. She lived with these folks in the middle of nowhere, and they had a septic system. And she used to always say, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. So I had to get that one in there. I'm not sure how that plays out.
Words to live by, buddy. Words to live by.
I think you could apply that to life, right? There you go. But, I agree 110%. Here's the thing that's going to make it challenging, and I made mention of this before, and I'm pointing my finger over here to underscore the roaring 20s. People have so much discretionary money. People want to consume so much stuff that the consumption is going to continue to exasperate the situation. And people are going to consume, and they're going to keep going and going. So the fever break may take longer than past peak season, because if you got money and you want to consume, it's like whenever if you have a sporting team that has horrible karma and everything else. As long as you're winning, that solves a lot of problems. As long as you're buying and consuming things, it'll hide a lot of the things that you're speaking about. And people aren't going to realize that until the roaring 20s are over. The other thing that gives me concern is they talked about inflation, meaning the Fed. Like, it's just kind of a blip with people coming back online, so to speak, in the world opening. But the more and more you hear about these things, like this is going to last until 2022, this is going to last. It's not a blip anymore. And normally, I wouldn't really care about that stuff, being my demeanor, but I'm kind of getting nervous that people are not realizing freaking chaos that is going to ensue, and it's going to be one hell of a hangover at some point. But that's what the roaring 20s were all about, right? Didn't we have this major crash in the late 1920s? So anyway.
Can I put something in your head to let warm there, Doug?
Yeah, fire away.
What was a 40-foot container going for before the pandemic? Do you remember?
I'm not that close enough in the freight forwarding world, but going into California, West Coast,
let's say Shanghai into LA, I don't know,
2,500,
$3,000. Now you're looking, if you want to make sure it makes the ship, like it actually gets on the ship, I don't know, $18,000. $19,000. And I'm telling you, like, all the vessel owners got together in some dim lit room, like something out of Austin Powers, and they're all sitting there with a martini in front of them. Like, one of them was probably stroking a cat while they're talking, yes, Mr. Bigglesworth. One probably had like an eye patch, and there's like the room of evil, sinister supervillains. And one of them said, hey, listen, here's how it's going to go. Doug, you've got how many ships? You're like, I've got 500. Okay, you're going to put 300 to service. You're like, the hell I am. Like, no, stand down, Dr. Draper, stand down. And you, Pete Evil, how many ships do you have? I have 200. You'll put 110 into service. By God, no, I will not. And then they're like, no, here's the deal. We're going to constrain volume so much that when we put all of our ships back into play, and we've all gotten really good at not messing with it, they're not going to cry about $10,000 a container anymore. because they've paid $20,000 for so long. It's going to seem like a bargain. Like you wait when it's like the new normal, $6,500 a container, and that's normal. And the container is what the container is, and no matter where you go, it's what it costs. And they've commoditized themselves, but they're a cartel like OPEC, and we just live with it. And because we've been getting shellacked across the face, by this rubber hose of what these things cost for so long, I'm telling you, I am the grandson of a gangster. I know how this works out. They all got together in a smoke-filled room drinking Campari, and they figured this thing out.
Yeah, I would agree. And we've talked about this before. That it's like the mafia out there, right? It's crazy. Create an artificial ceiling and then bring it back down to the number that you really want.
Unless anyone thinks I hate it, hate the game. Don't hate the player. God bless him for pulling it off.
Yeah. You forgot about the guy that's in all black who doesn't say anything. That's got a scar on his face, and everybody wonders, how did he get that scar? But he's just over in the corner of the room that when in doubt, you just look over to him for a validation statement.
Yeah. Maybe there's one guy who has a knife, like a really long knife, and it's like he's cutting an apple with a knife, like a really sharp knife. He never talks. And there's one very attractive woman, in a dress who that there's just like a pile of bodies that she's taken out to get to the top. We should probably do a meme like this, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Short, spiky hair.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to end us up with something a little bit on the lighter side. We've had 3 topics that were just bang, bang, bang. But this one it's just the icing on the cake for all the things that we've talking about and how oblivious people are to what's happening right now. I saw it popped up today that they want to turn the Howard Terminal in Oakland into the new Major League Baseball stadium. They want to turn it into an entertainment district. They want to put some retail and some residential there. It's called the Oakland Waterfront Ballpark District Project. And basically, the Oakland A's want a new place, and they want to put it in a cool area. And they're looking at the Howard Terminal, which I didn't really know what the Howard Terminal was, but it's at the Port of Oakland. It hasn't been used for like 10 years because it's not big enough. It's kind of old. And so that's the target. But what the Howard Terminal is doing is providing accessorial and services where they're doing some training, there's equipment storage, and they provide support services. And the investors are like, I don't really care. It's by the water, and we can make a killing, and we want to go in there. And the only place that we're going to build this new stadium is in this waterfront ballpark district. And if you don't let us, we're going to take the Oakland A's and move out of town. So it's just a microcosm of how clueless people are with what's going on in the worst supply chain crisis that anybody has ever seen in the history of the world, where tourism, entertainment, and dare I say, electric charging machines, which I just went off, or electric charging stations, I digress, are more important than realizing there's this piece of property right by the port that with a little assistance could help. Like it's there. We don't have to create it. It's already there. We can just build upon it. So I just thought this was comical that the solution with this amazing piece of property is not let's fix it to help the supply chain crisis. Let's put some condos, some entertainment, and a baseball stadium, and that's what's more important. Yeah. It's baffling to me.
Yeah. Because, first of all, Doug, there are very few people in this business that love baseball more than I do. I'm confident saying that. I love baseball. I'm a season ticket holder for the Boston Red Sox. I love baseball. Not even working for who I work for could ruin baseball for me. Okay, I love baseball. And I'm telling you right now, baseball is a sport that is having a hard time getting people to care about it. It's not what it used to be. It's not full of excitement and energy like it used to be. It's hard to compete against a lot of these other sports. Okay. So to think that you're going to take a sport that is declining in viewership, declining in excitement and enticement, and put it someplace like that and expect that it's going to have this economic impact, I think it's foolish to begin with. And then second of all, You want to talk about being just financially blind. If it's anywhere near the port of Oakland, any game you're going to have, and the A's do draw a crowd, and they're famous for having tailgates. They're one of only 2 Major League Baseball teams that allows tailgating before the game. Now, the crowd in Milwaukee that tailgates, a little different than the crowd that tailgates in Oakland. Don't mind telling you. You're going to be bringing, let's say at the lowest end, 15,000 people to 25,000 people with their cars, trucks, RVs, Ubers, buses to a port area. Do they have any idea the kind of congestion that's going to cause in an area that's already outrageously congested, right? And Major League Baseball as an enterprise is extremely mindful of environmental impact. They're extremely mindful of making a good face to the community. I mean, these are people that are always extremely diligent about trying to make sure that they're saying and doing the right things to make an impact on society and the community as a whole. And it's not just lip service. They're trying to do the right thing. It's the wrong image. It's the wrong decision to make. It's a bad look, dude. It's a really, really bad look. I think just one person from the Federal Maritime Commission, and we know a couple, we could call them, doing an impact study on congestion alone should be enough to point out to these guys it's not such a great idea. Maybe this baseball team needs to move someplace smarter, like, I don't know, Portland, because I know they'd love a new baseball team out there. Or a couple other places like Nashville that's been dying for a baseball team, and let them go out there. San Francisco and the Giants, anything to get them out of the American League. Those A's are killing me. Would be perfectly fine with me. But no, Doug, it's just another example of how people in this industry like you and I look at it and say, are you out of your mind? But everyone else is like, oh, I can get a condo by the ballpark and maybe they'll put a Whole Foods there and a Trader Joe's. That'll be awesome, bro. And it's just ruinous to everything we're trying to change here. You're right.
Yeah, agreed. And, before I'll let you take us out, but the other problem, Pete, there's going to be people there with drones. And I'm sick of drones. We need to stop talking about drones. But there will be drones in that area. Anyway, I had to get that in.
Doug,
I had to get that one in.
Doug, why do you hate the drones, man? Why do you hate the drones? You need to embrace your mechanized overlords, man. Skynet is coming. Just learn to love it, bro. Yeah. Well, with that, I think it was another great episode. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Keenan, back in the booth, who today wore a collared shirt and actually took his 7 feet of hair and put it back into a beautiful beehive, as he is in the office again today, to produce us. I think we need to have him on as a guest next time, Doug. We need to talk to Keenan about how much he hates me.
He's smart.
He's very smart. Keenan's sharp as a whip.
Great flavor.
Yeah, he's brilliant. I mean, he hates me, but he loves you. So we can good cop, bad cop him for a 30-minute global trade this week. But as always, thank you very much to Cap Logistics for supporting us. Thank all of you for watching us, for telling your friends, and for making this thing as popular as it is. And we'll see you next week with another exciting episode of Global Trade This Week. Thanks, Doug.
All right, Pete. Thanks a lot. Take care.